Hi there, this is Jim the Keys bartender coming to you from Key Largo. I'm here with Papa Joe. Say hi, Papa Joe.
We're here.
Yeah, I still... The reason I go with Papa Joe is that's what
he's stuck with.
Jenna.
He's stuck with me.
Yeah, we're the same age. So today, I'm just going to call this getting fucked up. Not that I'm getting fucked up right now, but the impression of the Keys. But we are, last week, two gentlemen from, what's the name of that? From Michigan. I know the name of the vodka. It's called Gypsy Vodka. And it's Michael and Adam Kazanowski. Kazanowski from Gypsy Vodka. That is Petoskey, Michigan. Michigan. They also, so they're the distiller of Gypsy Vodka. The name of the company is High Five Spirits. They came in. They had some nice shirts. They had a whole bunch of stuff. They look well promotable, and I'm going to be talking to them. They gave me a bottle of their vodka and a bottle of their gin. I'm just finishing up the vodka right now.
Hey, when did they give you this?
Last week.
Wow. They need to give you another one. This one's got a problem. It's empty.
It's empty. Yeah. Well, hey, a week, that's not bad, you know? And Abby's been drinking that too.
Okay, we'll blame her too.
So, I put a big dent in that though. But it's about 6 days, I think.
Yeah, a new product, you know.
Yeah.
And if it tastes good, why not?
Yep. And I didn't want to overdo it. So, and I figure I'm going to have this one drink, and then later on we're going to have some cocktails when we do our other shows. Trying to do 3 shows today. I hope we're knowing it. Yep. So getting fucked up. The Keys have a reputation for being a party spot, much like Las Vegas.
Exactly.
All across the United States. You have Fort Lauderdale. That's more of a, I guess all these shore communities have it. And, but the Keys hold a place where people kind of like check out. That used to be they would check out of society. You know what I mean?
Keys has always had, I think, in my experience, had that aura around it where if you want to get away, you don't have to go very far if you're in Miami, for instance, or that same message is promoted throughout the United States, probably around the world, that the Keys is not like any other place. And in many regards, it's not. And so you have people that visit probably with looking to do different things, and they're walking away with probably different experiences having been down. I don't think everyone walks away with the same. Some would probably feel, well, this place wasn't much of a.
Oh, I've had people come in. I've had people come in where they're visiting and they show up and they had the same. I'll give you my expectations after a while, but for me, it was these people coming in and they're already fucked up. And they come in the bar and they start ordering shots and stuff. I said, "You are fucked up. You're not having shots. You got fucked up someplace else." I'm dealing with the repercussions of what you decided to do with this other place, and then you came here.
Right.
Well, we're going to eat. I said, well, you should be eating and not drinking anymore. Well, it's the Keys.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like this. And that's what they look at me. They're giving me the look and they go, it's the Keys.
You're right. It's different expectations.
Yeah, and you go like this. And I said, well, no, we have the same laws about intoxication as the rest of the state.
Yeah, but don't you find that when you're on vacation, I'll use myself as I learned a long time ago traveling. I traveled a lot as a kid, a young adult, and I continue to travel quite a bit. And leisure travel specifically. You go somewhere and you're completely away from home. And in some people's minds, you're away from responsibility. You're away from rules. You're away from all those things that connect you to that reality of responsibility.
I get it.
And the problem is you end up with people like that come into the bar that they've been drinking who think, well, I'm a tourist. I'm allowed to do this. Well, yeah, you are, but you're also going to end up in jail if you drive and drink, and all the rest of the stuff. It follows you.
I want to thank my lucky stars sometimes, and we'll go through my story, but I did over the weekend. I do see people, the locals and vacationers, they come in, and on you see them on Friday. They're getting primed up. They come in. we're one of the stops. They started drinking already. Probably they start rolling in. You got people coming at the happy hour crowd. They're coming from work, right? And they're getting their first couple drinks. That's different. And then you got people come in and want to eat early because they're going to have a big night ahead of them. A lot of drinking going on and stuff like that, or whatever they're doing. So then you had the people that were happy hour someplace else coming in to eat. You know, we got our music going and stuff like that, and they're having a good time. And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying this is the pattern that you see.
Right.
And obviously we make our money off of that. And these people, when they're coming in to eat later, they've been through their happy hour. They've been someplace else and they're coming in here, and we're just part of the way station. We're not their end trip at 9 o'clock at night.
You're just a point on a line with probably points.
Well, the one, it usually ends up maybe at home, but I think there's probably another place. For the younger people around here, it's either Sharky's or CJ's. For the older people, it's Caribbean Club.
Yeah, but even a little further south, you got the Hog.
The Hogs are real young people, yes.
Yes. I mean, that's like...
Well, that's CJ. And CJ's is, if you're looking for a fight.
Yeah, I go to CJ's often, and I'm surprised I've seen a few erupt. Mm-hmm. And I'm very happy to say that...
I don't know what it is about that.
Because it's locals mostly.
I don't know, because we have locals. We have locals that...
Not... But you have a different clientele.
Oh, well, but I think it has to do, and this is where I'm a believer in feng shui, the design of it. It's very narrow going in there, and there's things people can't get away from each other. You got the people in the back of the room and the people in the front and all that stuff. It's just like...
that'd be interesting to do. Like
I know. It's just the way people come in,
Does the space, does the environment alter the behavior? Now we're going to have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, I had to believe, I remember the movie The Warriors.
Yeah, of course.
There were stories about it when it first came out that there was always fights breaking out after The Warriors. Right? And especially in the suburban neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Same thing happened in Rocky.
Well, the Warriors because it was gangs.
Right.
Rocky, I don't know, man. I never got that vibe. I grew up in Philly.
Their oats. And the same thing with
I didn't see
Warriors. You go back
Warriors,
further,
I know. What?
And you can go West Side Story.
Dance fighting?
Yes. Well, it was identity. It has nothing to do with the fighting. It has to do with group identity. So if you group identify with a character or a group of characters, you're going to walk away with this over-exaggerated sense of pride, and then that's what you end up with. Warriors, you end up with, this is my group, you're your group.
Hey, lucky I wrote this stuff down because we can bring it back to that thing. I do believe in the group identity thing. And the thing I was getting to about the weekend is how people go into it. And you see, I work a double Friday, Saturday night, Sunday night, and I see the whole progression. And I see the same people. I see them, but they show up. And on Sunday, there's some of these people, they are fucking done. They are ripped up. I don't even say ripped up. They're drunk, but they're just at the end. They're still drunk and they go, give me a soda. I mean, they drank so much. That's it. I'm done. And you go, man, you're going into the week. This is your lead up. People say, yeah, it's Friday. And at the end on Sunday, you're so banged up. Like I'm banged up on a Monday because I had Martini Monday last night. Actually, Jen and Tyler came in, but they couldn't even, there was no room at the bar. It was pretty good night. It was.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was a pretty good night, but, I'm banged up not from drinking, but serving drinks.
Right.
So I'm looking at these people and I say, you know what? I don't feel I'm any different than they are. That would be me. But I see it now and I go, wow. Like I have Tuesday off. You saw what happened right now. Right previous to the thing, the universe aspired against my evening off by a phone call just before we started this podcast. I get a phone call from a coworker of mine who's not feeling well, and this is what happens. I guess because you think you might feel better during the day, and you start getting worse, and you realize you got to call out.
That happens.
Yeah, for me. Yeah, what I'll try to do is tonight. I can't do this. even though I will gauge this, you, Jenna, and Tyler and Damon are very flexible. I felt that we were prepared to do it tonight, and I feel obligated to myself and to you, Tyler and Jenna, to carry through on that time and not going to do that, because it's a show. Are we just doing it, or we're going to do it for something bigger? And we're going to do something bigger, then fuck it, I got to go and do it, right? I can't just do it. I mean, fuck, would I blow up if I was still? I mean, I was going to say still dating Abby. I am dating Abby. I'm with Abby. You're always dating. You always. If the words of advice to any of you guys and girls in a relationship. When you're formalize it, you're living together, married, whatever, you're still dating. If you remember that, you can have a better relationship. I have to remember that because you're still auditioning for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, every day should be an audition. Yeah, it's the recipe for a healthy relationship.
And the weekend, a part of my weekend is I need to be away from work. Yeah. I need to be away from work. I know I advertise myself as a Keys bartender. Remember, it's that determiner in front of it.
You don't.
Not the Keys bartender.
You don't have a bed in the middle of the place.
2 weeks ago, it did seem like that because someone was away and I had to do instead of 7 shifts, I had to work 10.
Listen, you do what you got to do, but then those circumstances for you have to be taken into consideration too.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I take, man. It's just that.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the people come in, getting back to, you watch people come in between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you see a trend.
Some of them are in each night.
Okay, and they definitely come Sunday.
Yeah, some of them
are looking like they
almost all of them
run over by a truck,
unless they're like just arriving. There are people that travel on a Sunday, which is a great thing. And there's, and the younger people definitely you can see the difference in recovery. Older people are so much tougher. But there comes with being tougher is amount of damage you do to yourself.
Yeah.
The damage older people do themselves is more long-term, there's a longer residual effect. I just think when I see it, and they do it all. They party like they're 21, 22. I see some of these older people and go, fuck, man, they got the heart. If you put that type of determination, and I've seen younger people like that, but they're completely, they drink themselves a blackout and stuff like that. And they end up in ERs and stuff like that. Older people, it's like some people, you're going to look at them and say they're not going to make it out of their 30s, right? And then some people, they do it so hard and stuff like that, like Keith Richards, and they're fucking still rolling around doing their stuff. You see those guys in their 70s, 80s years.
Thank God for good genetics.
Oh,
listen, you can't bet your well-being on the genetics. It's a little irresponsible, don't you think? So that if you're out there partying, and now you find yourself, say my age, 56 years old, and I got to go to the bar on a Friday, and I got to go to the bar on a Saturday, and I got to go to the bar on a Sunday. If
Abby and Sky weren't in the picture and stuff like that, I would be there, and I'd have to question I'll tell my story about what I thought about it.
What are you up to is what I'd be asking. Like, what are you up to? What is it in your life that drives? Well,
actually, what my thing was, and I'll tell the beginning of it right now, prior to becoming to the Keys, a very unsatisfying early adulthood, I get introduced. I was drinking when I was young, 13, 14 years old. Then I laid off it for a couple of years because I wanted to, I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. So I got my act together, did high school, like a champ. And I'm president of the National Honor Society, played some sports, got great grades, ended up getting a Navy scholarship, doing the college thing. And then college, alcohol, finest thing. And every time you had a disappointment, I'll tell you, I had a friend waiting for you at the end of the day.
Holding a drink?
No, the drink.
Oh, the drink.
The drink was the friend.
Yeah.
And that became a recipe, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm not taking, hey, listen, I'm saying having a drink right now. It's a perspective how you use it. It's just like medicine, right?
Yeah.
Penicillin's there to cure you of some ailment, but if you use it all the time, your body the ailment becomes, resistant to it and things like that, and it becomes less productive. It's like the food pyramid, which we find out later was kind of real fucked up. Yeah. The way they had grain in it and stuff made it so big on the bottom, and dairy and cheese and all. The food pyramid was wrong. The vegetables should have been like much bigger part of it. Protein, very small part of it. And those other fats.
Which one of you industries wants to pay us to put you at the top? That's kind of where it went.
Yeah. They came in, they had the industry, the person who originally created the food pyramid, I'm going off it, was saying, no, that's wrong. That's the you have it.
But the people that are going to pay for the posters.
So,
they have interests.
But so I would call it, I developed the wrong relationship. Much like having a bad girlfriend or boyfriend. And I developed, you can have a friend who may not be good for you as long as you're not taking advice from them, letting them drive the car, making them take the party, stuff like that. I like to call alcohol the bad friend, the very bad friend. Because you can have a good time with a bad friend when you're out.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, but when you go home with them and you got to live with them all the time and you start making your decisions with their advice in your ear and stuff like that, that's when everything kind of goes wrong. And you have ability. And if you're a person that has a lot of people have so many talent, they're talented, they have abilities, and they're unrealized because his friends keeping them back. His friends keeping them back all the time. You just got to say, you know what? You're on the weekend. You're my friend. Okay. You're my friend on the weekend. I got to go and continue. I got to do this other stuff. And that's what alcohol did to me. But I was doing it all the time. That friend was with me all the time. So before I got married, I would, oh my God, I'd work hard at my job. I do a pretty good job when I jump, but it was always kind of the first half of the day I'm recovering from the night before.
Yeah, sure.
And I had physically, constitution wise, I was able to go and do my job, do everything, I had a good attitude, intelligent, be able to do my job and adequately, being a good in the service, good in working in government, good working in private industry. I was there, I'm a nice guy. And then happy hour at the end of the day. Whenever I'm off, there we go. Whenever the drinking light goes on. Just like the smoking light on ships when they had. So I would go and do it. And on my days off, it was built around drinking. It was wherever we went, I was drinking. I mean, I for a couple of years before I got married, I would go and spend practically the whole day at the bar, open to close. Not unheard of.
Yeah, I could never understand.
It's just the way
that draw. I could.
Well, it's a circular. You start drinking and something like that. You get on it. You drink too much. You feel shame. You vow never to do it again. Oh, this hurts and hurts and stuff. And the real problem alcoholic has is where somebody does it once a month, and they go back and do it again. Oh, okay. Well, the real problem drinker does it every day, and they cover up. You're drinking to the shame and drinking to the shame. It's almost going back and forth into it.
Addiction. You have your binge addiction. You have your chronic addiction. Mm-hmm. And it's not just alcohol. You can binge addict. I've known cocaine users that are binge addictors, and it's as toxic a behavior.
The binge addiction is not as chemical as as heroin and cigarettes. No.
I would say if we're
but then again, they've done studies about. I told you about the Vietnam during the Vietnam War. They expected towards the end a lot of addiction specialists, psychiatrists. Right. They believed there was going to be a huge influx of heroin addicts in the United States after the Vietnam War because of the prevalence of the use of it, because the heroin came from that part.
Didn't that come true?
No, not necessarily. The reintroduction of heroin is important, but a lot of service members were able to stop because they said some of them, when they had a meaning, they used the heroin over in Vietnam for different reasons.
So environment.
And no, they used it for different reasons, like to escape the horror of what was going on around them. And when they came here and they had a purpose, they were able to walk away from it. Now, obviously, there were people that were heroin addicts over here, came over, but it never came to fruition. And so they had to rethink of that addiction model. And we're not talking about addiction today. And we're going to be, let's take that break and then we'll come right back and we'll talk about what happened. I'm going to bars and stuff, how that changed for me. And I'm not saying I'm cured or anything, but I'd like to thank once again, I'm going to make sure the guys at, High Five Liquors, Gypsy Vodka, and High Five Gin. I'm going to make sure I'm having a drink. It is smooth. It's 6 times distilled, if I read it correctly, made from corn and is gluten-free.
Ooh, it's healthy.
Yeah, and distilled in Michigan, Petoskey.
Buy USA.
Buy USA. There you go. Make Mava. Make America vodka again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that one.
Mava. Okay, we're going to be back in a moment.
Whether you're one of our regular visitors to the Florida Keys or you can't wait to visit for the first time, you'll want to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the Florida Keys. To learn all the secrets, tips, and the stuff we don't talk about to anyone but each other, visit 43keys.com. Sign up for our newsletter and never miss any of the exciting things we have planned for you. That's 43 Keys. The number 4, the number 3, keys.com.
And we're back. So I think we'll get them to just stick them two together here.
Got a slight technical problem.
Yeah. But this is getting fucked up. I'm not getting fucked up, but and we left it off. I was talking about going to the bar all day, and I decided I didn't want to be. I was doing this cycle, I was living at home, I was every opportunity I had to go forward into any career or relationship, I would fucking sabotage it by just getting fucked up at the wrong time, getting fucked up all the time. And then I met the girl I dated at one time. Again, I said, and I was terrified at the time. I was thinking about, I had my father had a cousin who I don't think he ever got married. And they started saying I reminded them, ended up having a kid, but it was outside of wedlock. And the kid had a drinking problem too, was a little older than me, I guess. And he ended up living by himself in downtown Philadelphia, even though they lived in the suburbs. He moved down to an apartment down there. Just drinking every day, smoking, had one of those, Trakes in. Yeah. Always talked to, and then I had one of my mother's uncles who was a World War II vet, and he never married, and he was drunk all the time, had a cirrhosis belly and all that stuff. But, he was a nice guy, but they always talked about I think what happens with, I think you heard here in the old days when people went to AA and stuff like that, they said, the problem with you is you can't handle it. You can't tough it out. And a lot of times with addiction, you seem to live in the past and you drink to your past and you drink. So anything you had, you don't move on. It's frozen. It's like a snapshot and you just do that stuff. So I was doing that and I was thinking about these uncles. I said, fuck, you know what I need to do? I need to settle down. I decided I was in love with this girl. She's a wonderful girl. She's lovely, good person, very good person. I ended up proposing to her and ended up being married 6 years. And we just going to, I was drinking during the relationship, but nothing like I was when I was single. I was not drinking like a champ anymore. But I used to sneak every so often. Like I'd have bourbon in there and then I put tea in there. So it looked like I had that. She never drank bourbon, so she wouldn't know. If I was out late last night, I would just drink secretly. Like she wouldn't know that I'm drinking bourbon.
Right. And you would drink this, like not just when you got home, but during the day. throughout the day?
Oh, not when I'm working.
Okay.
No,
So
never
you
drink
got
when I'm
off-
working.
you got off work?
I never drank at work. No, I never drank at work. That was one of those things. Everyone, and there are people say, "Oh, I never do that. I never smoke around my kids. I never do this. I never." But you're equivocating, right? So we're going through marriage counseling and stuff like that. And even while we're in marriage counseling, they'd every so often say, "Would you say?" And they'd even look at me and go, "Would you say that you drink too much?" And she would say, "No, I don't think he does." Really? You don't think I drink too much? And even when we got separated, she asked me to leave, and the year before we got separated, I went on a trip down to the Keys. One of my best friends, my best friend at the time, I was in my wedding. He lived down here on a boat, and I was friends also with his brother, and we had a mutual friend, Gary, and we all came down to Key Largo for 5 days. And I came down. It was so beautiful. You come in. My buddy lived on a boat in the Pilot House Marina.
Oh, nice.
The bar's right there. We're drinking every day. We go down to Key West. I think I ended up, I don't know how I drew the short straw on this one, but I was the designated driver coming back from Key West with all them drunk down there. It was funny. They were harassing the shit out of me, too. Gary was sticking his feet in my ear and all that. But I said, "Oh man, it was great." And I'm in a bar, and guys are introducing me to women and all that stuff. Like, oh wow! And my relationship's falling apart at the time. So that was 2006, and then the beginning of 2007 rolls around. 8 months later, 9 months later, well, whatever, and the wife asked for a separation. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what am I going to do? I'm standing here. I said, "Man, I hate my job at the time." And obviously the marriage isn't going too well. And we weren't getting along at all. So I wasn't crying over that stuff. And I didn't realize then that she had plans like to move on. And I came down here. I said, my friends, I asked, "Can I come down here?" And she drove me to the airport, blah, blah, blah. And I went down here, took a leave of absence. I was going to come down here for like a couple months, figure out what I was going to do and move on. I was thinking about going to New York, right? So I came down here in about April 2007, and that's by August, I was in AA.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I realized that I had taken all the problems I had in Philadelphia and brought them down to Key Largo.
Of course you did.
And I stopped for 7 years till 2014. And it was beautiful, man. It was a great time. I can't imagine the trouble I would have gotten into between then and now. But the reaction I had begun at certain times, you have one of the steps is to make amends. And some people were saying what I did was selfish.
By doing what? By quitting?
No, some of the things I did, like moving down here, leaving, and then my brother, a couple of years later, one of my relatives said, "You left your wife," and all. I said, wait a second. She is married with a new husband and a baby along the way.
She moved on.
I said, that didn't happen. That happened a couple months after, while I was still getting my head together, and that stuff was going on then. Now, yeah, I was dating and stuff like that. I wasn't, and I was actually, was reluctant. I was thinking about, oh man, I didn't want to end up going back into that relationship because I said, it was just too much. I'd have to rebuild everything, and I don't know if I was a different person at that time. And someone said, well, you should see if you can, there's any remnants left. And it turned out she didn't want to hear any of it. No, well, but she was still my friend after that, but she didn't want to hear any of that. So that's good. So I just stayed down here. And
so when you came down here,
yeah,
and so now you're down here, you got your friends, you're drinking, then it ends up
became a bartender.
You became a bartender. It ends up having to be a problem. You abstain until 2014.
I abstained. I worked at it.
No. There's no doubt anyone that can. I went
to. No. What I meant is I went to. I wouldn't call. I didn't white knuckle it. You know, white knuckle is just stop
it cold.
Yeah, I didn't white knuckle it. Well, drop it and call some people. Some people, I mean, I imagine there's people out there that could do and drop a call and not have to go to meetings and all that stuff. Yeah. But I had to replace that time with other activities, and that other activities was going to meetings, doing meditation, working out a little more. I worked out a lot. I was working out like 20 hours a week.
It's repositioning purpose.
Yeah. And oh my God, with all that time, I invented binge eating. Incredible amounts of food. I mean, really bad food too. But I was working out. You know, I go to the gym for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I can eat a bag of donuts, a frozen pizza at the end of the night, a cherry pie. Not the little hand one either. You know?
No, why? Don't.
Yeah.
That's.
I would get the little pizza rolls as an hors d'oeuvre, so I can wait for the frozen food to be ready. And then I started cooking. I started really getting creative. I said, I'm just going to make whole meals. And I got together, and that changed my life too. So that idea, on Sunday, I'm looking at the person.
Right.
And I go, wow. Even now, after all those things I did, if I had the whole weekend off with everyone else, because everything else involved. Now, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, there's a whole lot of things to do down here that don't involve drinking.
There's all kinds of stuff throughout the week that
I know, but the population, your people, a lot of them are going to be drinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the time they do it.
Okay,
so when I'm saying on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is more like family time for me. So
you hold back.
Yeah.
That's fine. And plus, you manage your drinking. Because I'm guessing because there's a past where you did not manage it so well, and it took.
No, there are days where I wish I could just. I would today.
Wishing and doing are two different things.
Yeah, no. I did. I would. Today, I went to get a haircut, and I eventually called you, but I went to get a haircut, and I'm going to talk about that. That was an interesting thing because I want to talk about real quick. But I went to this Winn-Dixie because everyone said, "Oh, they got a liquor store in there and stuff like that," and I figured I'd get something, food for lunch, and. I went and did that, but I went in the liquor store. I'm taking a look around. I'm looking at bottles. Oh, they got a good price on bourbon and all that stuff. I love bourbon, but I walked out of there and I had plenty. I mean, had money, had my card and all that stuff like that. And they go, didn't hit me. I go and walk in. But I did go and get steaks and a potato, and so
I'd opt for that too.
Yeah.
And last week I went and I walked out with 4 bottles, and I hardly drink, but. There's some things that any good bar should have.
Yeah.
Especially being an Italian, you need your coffee liquors.
Yeah.
And your cream coffee liquors to go with your espresso. If you want to give it a good jolt. And then, of course, my Basil Hayden's. I had to have my my bourbon.
Oh, really?
Because when I drink, I drink basically 2 drinks.
What?
Maybe 3 if I'm really feeling.
An old fashioned?
No. That was my dad's favorite.
Oh, okay.
Drink. He was a bartender, as a matter of fact. He couldn't drink it because of his brain injury. He'd drop dead if he had any hard alcohol. That kept him kind of sober his whole life. So, which was good because I understand he was quite the party animal growing up. Mm-hmm. And then the war happened, and he came home, and that had to stop. So he had no choice in making that transition. But if I don't have a Bloody Mary, then my 2 go-tos are a Campari or bourbon and Coke, but it's got to be I can't drink like well bourbon. That just doesn't happen. If it's like Jack or, Jim Beam, the basics, I can't do it. It's rot gut. It just makes my stomach go sour.
How about like
has to be high end,
like Makers?
Makers,
no, okay.
It cuts.
Woodford?
No,
How about Woodford?
Woodford's a little smoother. Makers bites, when I drink it, I get a really hard bite out of it, and it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Smells great.
How about Blanton's?
Never had it.
Blanton's.
But Basil Hayden's, I tried that about 6 months ago. My brother had it. And it's like a single barrel. It's really smooth. So, and the other thing is, when I was a kid, I came down here.
Yeah.
Mind you, I was a child, 5 years old. We're going down to Whale Harbor. Some of you who are down here who listen may know Skip Bradeen. He's kind of a fixture.
Yeah, he has a radio show down here. And all that.
He's quite the character. But on and off, I've been fishing with Skip Bradeen since I was 5 years old, and that relationship sort of popped up again. When you're 5 to say 10, and then nothing, you kind of forget. And then when I was in my mid to late 20s, a buddy of mine booked a fishing trip, and it just happened to be on Blue Chip 2, Skip Bradeen. And I kept looking at him, thinking, and he remembered my uncle, the ice cream guy. My uncle has an ice cream company. And so we started that connection again. And, Skip's a wonderful person, but enough about Skip, more about me. So, but coming down here as a kid, then coming down here really a lot in my early and late 20s, and then working down here in my late 40s as a trooper, my perception and expectation of the Keys shifts. As a kid, I thought this place was like driving on the road to the Bahamas. It was somewhere. It was magical.
Oh yeah.
It was entering a fantasy because at 5, 6, 7 years old, you're going from the truck into a boat into crystal clear blue and emerald green water, and catching really neat fish. And everyone's laughing. Now the adults, thank God, I grew up. Everyone had a scotch in their hands, but no one would have thought, especially if they were driving, that even then they knew you can't drive screwed up. Then in my 20s, it was all about, let's go to the Keys and get fucked up. Because one, it was not near home. Right. And you get with your buddies, whether coworkers or high school friends, and you come down here, but it was strange. We'd go eat. And then we'd go drink, and someone had to be responsible to drive us home, and that was always worked out. And this is before the big push for, the DUI in the 80s and in the mid 80s. It was just, how else are you going to get home? We got to get home. We're going to get. We all lived with our parents at the time, and no one wanted to face that music. So then, by the time I'm in my 40s and I'm working here. I'm back to, wow, there's a lot of neat stuff to do in the Keys. Now that I live here, it's the same thing. There's so much to do here that drinking just interferes with. Okay, so go out on the boat and I don't mean like having a drink, drinking. I mean drinking to get screwed up, drinking to get drunk. There's too many things to do. There's too many things to appreciate. And I think that's where the problem is. We have a lot of issues with people coming down from Miami who use the Keys, trash it, and go home. And that could be said for any tourist, I suppose.
Any place.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because I've seen
Mount Everest.
I've seen horror stories.
Mount Everest, the shit they leave up there, the human waste and body.
Man, did you see that? The amount of waste on Everest?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there's tons of waste.
Tons. So I've seen horrible things throughout Europe where you're somewhere where it's 2,500-year-old.
I know, the Colosseum. The Colosseum. There's burger wrappers on the ground.
Yeah, or they're pissing on the walls.
Yep.
Please. So yeah, but that's my point. You're coming somewhere that has such natural beauty.
Yep.
Really, that's the selling point of the Keys, isn't it?
Yep.
You come here to fish, to snorkel dive, to boat. It's the environment that is the draw. Yeah, there's some industry down here, but this place makes its money on visitors. And visitors drink. And visitors eat, as well as participate in those companies that take them fishing and diving and all the rest of it. But sometimes those visitors, when I was working here as a sergeant for the Highway Patrol, you just had to ask yourself, why'd you bother to come down here?
If you're going to do that?
you're drunk 3 days of the 3 you're here, and you didn't think that one through. You know, you're going to go home and say, what? I got fucked up. So here's my problem. Your expectation is to go on vacation, to get fucked up. There's other problems in your life. So my question would be, what's being avoided? Mm-hmm. What isn't being dealt with that this behavior continues? And how scary is that thing that's not being dealt with that forces or compels someone to say, yeah, but being inebriated for 3 days really was the best?
No. Well, I mean, that's the self-medicating thing where, yeah, yes, exactly the way I did it. When you go and you just want to forget what your life is like back in the real world and stuff like that. When that happens, you could do that at home.
See, no, I didn't.
You could do that at home.
Something out.
You could do that at home at a bar.
Yes, you can. Yeah, but I left something out. So the listeners, they may have heard this from me before. When I was in my 20s, when I was in my late 40s, I came out of the closet at 47.
Yeah.
And even before that, I was starting to see with different eyes.
Yeah.
And you talked about a time where you avoided drinking.
Wait a second. Out. You know what?
But I
want to do a whole show on this.
Okay, but let me.
Can we have a moment? Can we do it? No, we're going to end this. No, we'll just continue. We'll do another pause. No, do a pause. And you're going to tell a whole story on that because we got to do 20-minute. I'm not going to accidentally drop this one again. Okay. You know, listeners, there's some things that you have to spend more time with. And I thought it was an injustice I needed to take another 20-minute break, and I'll just put this in. It's going to be an hour-long show because you're getting to a point that I don't think you could just gloss over and do it in 10 minutes or 5 minutes even. I thought that deterred 20 minutes. So I saw where you were getting at. Mm-hmm. So that's keenly interesting inside a look. You're when did you become a state trooper?
I was 22 years old in 1980. 23 years. Yeah, 22 at the time, 1986.
Yeah, and I don't need to know about your experiences. Not that if you want to talk to them, that's fine. But so at the time, I mean, I imagine that's a culture thing where they didn't put up with any. It was kind of intolerant towards.
Oh no! Listen, you have two things going on. Yeah. You have a high incidence of alcoholism in law enforcement.
Yeah,
maybe less so on the patrol.
Uh-huh.
Just because it's really your urban city cops that are the in and out of seeing the same senseless abuse, same senseless victimization, in and out. It takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
It takes not as fast a toll. But let me tell you what can happen on the patrol, and usually does. And you're always working against your own image, right? Mm-hmm. The big state trooper working the lonely road. So, and that's seeing your first dead body or your first dead child. Or a dismembered body or a burned body. And that alters you. Uh-huh. But the image on the patrol is that let's just not talk about that. Tomorrow's another day, pat you on the shoulder. My son was dying and I got the same attitude. When my son passed, hey, tomorrow's a better day.
Yeah.
Fuck you, tomorrow's a better day. I just lost my son in my arms, you fuck. But that's the culture. And the culture is, this hurts too much. I just don't want to involve myself in your issues. Mm-hmm. So you're on your own. And everyone's on their own. And then you have this feeling of loneliness. It's a perceived feeling.
Are you drinking a lot during this?
You know, when I was a trooper, no. Well,
I mean, what
my drinking, like leading up to being a trooper, I drank.
But you're coming out, you're having feelings, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you didn't have any issues with alcohol because of that?
No. I
just sublimated it all?
I internalized it. I pushed it down. Where it came out.
Were you raised Catholic?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, of course it sucks. And then went to the evangelical church.
That's even worse.
That's even worse. So talk about guilt, shame.
I know you have here we have a largely gay clergy telling you that you're evil, and I mean,
right?
Yeah, and then you go to the evangelicals and telling you're going to go to hell. You're the reason why the world's bad.
I remember two guys that walked into my evangelical church growing up, and two gay men, as it turned out. And they honestly, they were Christians. They believed. They didn't know how to manage those beliefs in light of what people were saying. That as gays, you're going to rot in hell and you're evil. And
that's their theology.
So they found themselves.
That was their theology.
Right.
They should have went to a Methodist church or something like that.
They didn't know. They were seeking. Okay, so let's use the speak of the church.
Yeah.
And then we'll get back to drinking. The speak of the church is you're seeking. It's your path. It's a very Eastern philosophy, right?
Yep.
When it's convenient.
Yep.
And that, they ended up throwing these two out of the church in the most vile way, shaming them and guilting them. And it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. And
was it a process or was it over one meeting?
Instantly, once they found out they were gay, no one asked any questions. They were on the street. That was the last day I went to church. Oh. I told my parents, this is not how this started with the church. I was preaching at 12 years old in Coconut Grove on the street corners to Vietnam vets. It was the greatest exhibition of love and transformation. As it turns out, as I grow up older, transformation can be achieved in so many ways. It's not just the word of Jesus Christ. It's the word of love and acceptance and forgiveness. And I watched these men who had horrible pasts, many of them alcoholics and drug addicts. They just needed to be told they were loved. Okay.
Let me bring you back on this path here. You're a trooper. I thought you were going to start telling me, and you don't have to. Are you comfortable telling? Yeah. You're a trooper. You're going through your career. Eventually you get married. Have kids.
But that you were talking about drinking versus some other.
No, I'm over there drinking one because you were talking about a thing. I thought you were. If you don't want to talk about dealing, you're dealing with this. You're dealing with this without drinking.
My whole life, yes.
Without drinking,
but it showed up in another way.
That's pretty amazing, though.
Without drinking,
no, I mean because that would lead to other devastations that go on.
I could never be a trooper, obviously, if that problem showed up early on.
Yeah.
And my drinking when I was younger was the typical exploratory drinking.
There's no troopers that have drinking problems?
There are troopers that have drinking problems, and those are issues that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Or the root cause of the drinking.
There was plenty.
Issue.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for myself.
It crosses.
My story is I'm a closeted homosexual who knew he was attracted to the same sex when he was 12.
When you were 12, you knew?
Yes. So going through life was a means of managing.
So you knew when you were 12. You knew gays exist when you were 12.
No, I knew I liked other men.
So when did you realize that was a option? Like when did you come to the realization that does exist and it's not? And did you have negative stereotypes of those people?
Yes, absolutely.
You did? That's kind of like self-hating.
Could be.
Self-hating. Okay.
Could be.
So, but it progressed and you came and you started seeing the hypocrisy. I don't want to put math on it. You saw the hypocrisy of religion on that preached love and acceptance and this, and they threw out the two guys. And you were how old when that happened?
When they threw them out, 19.
Yeah. Okay. So you knew, and you saw, hey, these guys were nice.
I saw me in them.
Yeah.
I saw the look. I was already in law enforcement, and what I saw was a look of help. There was a cry for help, and this church threw them on the street, and the subject matter, as we now know, is a very delicate one that usually leads to suicide. So,
shaming and
it was the most brazen act of hate to people they didn't know, completely counter to the very words that had just been spoken from that pulpit. And I could not, nor will I ever try to mend that. It is, if I have any hate in my heart, it's for the expression of quote unquote hate in the name of religion.
Yeah.
I have no use for it. That's why I'm an anti-theist. I don't think man's contrived illness known as religion, it will ever amount to anything other than yet another camp to join to avoid the real issues in your life. And yet I know plenty who keep 1 foot in and 1 foot out, who use it and they manage it appropriately, and it never stops them from loving unquestionably. And I'm not speaking about them. It's the idea of religion.
It's got to be really hard for those people that believe in acceptance and love and
well, that's what's led
the one human family movement. You know what I mean?
That's what's led to the other. We'll call them sects.
Yeah. The humanist movement,
right?
Where it's the diffusion of empathy, where you're able to extend your sympathies from within your group, which, let's say, you're white Southern Baptist. And then you said, well, they're the only ones going to have it. They're the only ones who matter. Blah, 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 blah. This, and then you go out further, and then you go and take, let's say, Jews, Catholics, black people, Mexicans. You go further, and you diffuse empathy among more and more groups, different lifestyles, different nationalities. I think nationality's way down there.
There's a name.
There's one thing, but we have this xenophobia. Xenophobia is not just nationalism. It happens inside groups too.
Of course, yes, of course.
So, and inside, so inside the United States, you got groups of people that view themselves as true Americans, and they may be, they could be less than 1 million people, or it could be more. It seems that the way the movements are right now, where you call everyone liars and hateful, and demand respect for somebody who isn't giving respect to anybody,
right?
And so you're going through all this. Your marriage, it's a very tough job.
Well, listen.
And what's the crux at the moment where you decide I'm done?
Well, the thing that would have been drinking, the drug, let's call it the drug, turned out to be adrenaline. And it was a very useful tool to become an adrenaline junkie. When you're an adrenaline
Were you
junkie,
racing motorcycles or something like that?
I was racing whatever I can get my hands on. Not so much motorcycles, but cars.
Yeah.
Taking risks, midnight dives without tanks, out in the ocean. Even if it just, whatever. And then there was the job. This is why in my heart, I always wanted to serve people, but then I realized, but wait, there's one particular way of serving people that really fits what I want, and it provides that adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed that rush because something came with that rush, admiration.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're admiring you, they're really not seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hide wonderfully behind a blanket of admiration. It's much like being starstruck, right?
Uh-huh.
You're looking at someone only because of the image that's been on screens.
Mm-hmm.
You know nothing about the person. You just see their face. It's very one-dimensional. What a great way to replicate that is to be a cop. But then I find myself as a cop. That's not good enough, because the problem with being an adrenaline junkie is you build a resistance, and you need more adrenaline. Now, it never ended up being alcohol. Because I knew one thing, that I couldn't go out at night so fucked up and keep calling in sick to work, or God forbid show up with alcohol on my breath. I'd lose the very thing that's providing me the cover. And that's what it was. The adrenaline had to amp. How do I do that? All right, I'll go work that crappy neighborhood, and I'll go find those people you've been looking for that no one else can go find. And you show up with them. Boom, your image goes up. And it was risky. And then I'll work at 3 years. I was on the job for 3 years, and they threw the dog at me almost. You need to take this position. Why? Because my felony arrests were 5 and 6 times that people with 10 and 20 years on the patrol. I just went and I liked arresting people who were distributing cocaine.
Yeah.
It was risky.
Yeah.
But my attitude was, I need this. And
they were probably more likely to be armed too, right?
Highly.
Oh my God.
Highly.
Yeah.
So, you had this constant edge for more adrenaline. Yeah. So it gets to the point where now I'm doing international drug cases and task forces. And it's like, I won't go too much into it, but one day my book will come out, and I draw from this one case. It is the high point, where a cartel decides, the two troopers, me and my partner, they got to go. So they send a hit squad to Miami to try and kill us.
Really?
And they ended up killing 5 suspects. They ended up killing 5. It turns out they were informants, so they had the names right. But they dumped the bodies on the roads that me and my partner worked to send a message.
Oh, okay.
And naturally, I'm still here and she's still here. So that didn't work out. We ended up arresting a kingpin, and a child dies in this case. It's a nasty, nasty case. And
all in the Cocaine Cowboys area?
All in the Cocaine Cowboys area extends well into the 1990s, probably 2000s. Because, with that, it's not just the cocaine. It becomes heroin, even in South Florida, and it's the money. It's the money. They're moving the money is moving the drugs. Sometimes that money is going offshore into boats, and it's doing a reverse course because they can't get it into banks fast enough. So it's all of that.
Okay.
So then I end up joining the union. I become the president of the union. I have 5 laws on the books that I wrote. So
it
kept going up.
It kept on going up, but then you're keeping it in. What breaks at that time? What causes you to come?
A couple of things.
I don't even say
2 specifically.
What?
Working in Tallahassee, getting real close to management, building relationships with management. I could have kept being a canine until I
retired.
Died. Yeah. But I took a sergeant's position. I studied for the test. Took me 3 times. It's not unusual. The FHP supervisor's exam is not the easiest in the world. 3rd time worked like a charm. They wanted to put me now by this time I'm married, okay, and I got kids, and they wanted to put me in Marathon, which meant I couldn't live in where I was living in Homestead. I'd have to move, and I couldn't do that. So they did me.
Why couldn't you do it?
I'd have lost too much money. I had an entire family. I didn't want to put the kids through that either. I mean, that's an uprooting of the family to go to Marathon. No.
Yeah. I'm a Navy kid, and I went to 16 different elementary schools.
I didn't want to do that to my kids. And my wife at the time, I don't think she'd have been happy living that far from her parents. And I don't think I would have, and my parents at that time lived in Sarasota, which was far enough. I didn't want to add to that. So, but they said, no, we're going to put your position in Key Largo, which means if you stay in Homestead, you're within the radius of being with a resident. So I was able to stay. I become a sergeant. I come to the Keys. Then my son gets sick. While I'm a sergeant, there's no more adrenaline. You're simply responding to make sure troopers have what they need to get the job done. You're no longer the guy doing the job. You're now a little removed from it. You're a lot removed from it. So there's not that. And it becomes somewhat idle time in the back of my mind. No adrenaline. So I start working out 3 hours a day, running 5 to 7 miles a day. I wear my body out. I looked good, but it wrecked me. Then my son gets sick with brain cancer. And then nothing makes sense anymore. It destroyed. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror and say, what can I do to promote me? To keep people from seeing me. That didn't make sense. I have a son who's shriveling up. He's not going to get better because he had 2 forms of brain cancer. And I knew that 3 days into when he got sick. And I had to live for everyone else. Now, you'd have thought as a police officer, you're serving everyone else. Well, yeah, that's true. But I had another thing going on. I was serving me by serving everyone else to keep people from seeing me. And it worked well. I refined the art, I think, in life I call it armor, of keeping that armor spotless, of making sure the image of Trooper Joe, oh my God, what'd you do today? Everyone would ask, well, how's it going? And then I took the job as a sergeant, didn't seem to have much meaning anymore. My son gets sick, and I can't keep that up. Now I'm going to tell you this, and it's going to sound cruel as hell, but it's honest, I think. I had to make a decision. What's more important, my son my girls, including the emotions of my wife, or my fucking image.
Yeah.
And I voted on them and not the image. And then it just the unraveling, like when you burn into a golf ball, the bands just come right out.
Covers it. Yep.
And there was only one thing left to do at that point, because the sidearm they gave me was starting to look awfully good. And I knew what that meant. You know, you can look down the road, especially when you're in a lament, and you could say, I know where this is going. If you're smart, there's a crossroads coming, and if I make the wrong turn, it's a dead end, and I'm dead. Which probably explains that when you accept that, people who self-demise, there's a certain peace over them, depending how they do it naturally. But there's a certain, you just get an understanding by being around someone who's committed suicide that whatever was going on in their life, they had to be at peace with something to do this. The pain and the anxiety and whatever led them to this, at some point, they just had to be okay with the doing. And it's a relent. It's a giving away of the will to do this, to finally end the pain. And it's a weird analogy, I know, but that's just my experience.
I understand. I just in case the listeners on there, there are people the people that do not do it. They realize, and you realize today, that not doing it is much better.
Oh my God.
Than doing it. There is a resignation. There is a resignation when you do it. There is a commitment. Just like the terrorists that decide to fly a plane into a building and decide to kill 3,000 people. There's resignation. Is it the right answer? In retrospect, it is not the right answer. But I understand where you were coming from.
Yeah,
there certainly is resignation. And that's what we call it, resignation.
I think the people who, I know for me, I'll just use me. I won't say the people.
I mean, but there's so many, it's devastating. It's devastating. And you know what? It's weird for me to have to be the advocate for the closeted gay community. It's a much better now environment, thank God, for these people than for men, women.
People aren't afraid to speak about it.
You're not certain
very well
certain groups of people. I imagine if you're Amish, I don't even know. I don't know what the Amish is. I don't know if they're. Hey, I don't know. You never know.
I don't think it's as big a deal as we may think for them.
Yeah.
I've actually known a few Dutch
You don't
Baptist
think it's a big
and
deal?
Amish. No, it wouldn't be their thing. They'd probably say, no, you can't do that. You know, it's a sin.
But they don't.
Whatever. But they're not going to sit there and they'll feed you if you're hungry, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
That's just their nature.
Yeah.
My realization, seeing that what I was headed to was, I can't leave. I love them too much. And I was willing. There was another way for me to end my pain. And that was simply tell the truth. And then I had to deal with the fear.
Was that whirring around in your head? Like, when was the thing? When was the idea? Like, I do affirmations. Like, I wrote down things like, I know what I am. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a broadcaster. I'm a philosopher. I'm a coach. I'm a writer. This is what I believe. It doesn't matter what other people believe. And we talk about the things what people around you think you are, which sometimes we become, right?
Right.
We try to be the things for people around us, but then there's things you know you are. Where was that point at the thing you say, even before you say you were dealing with the pain, you had these other things. Was there a time before the time you came forward coming out where you said in your head, I'm a gay man?
Oh yeah.
How long before that was that?
Probably in my 20s, I realized, definitely before I got married.
Really?
And yet I fell in love with my wife. I mean, no one would not fall.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't preclude falling in love with somebody. I mean, I realize you can, but it's not the relationship. It's not the ideal relationship you want for a partner.
But I did fall in love with her. People say, well, did you really love her? Yes.
Just like, you've seen a movie, The Bohemian Rhapsody. He fucking loved that woman.
No, but he really did.
He did. He fucking loved that woman, I said.
And like we've talked about
that was the love of his life.
Sexuality is on a curve.
Yes.
And look, doesn't mean that if you're gay, you'll never think about a woman sexually. Some gay men won't some gay men.
And it doesn't mean if you're straight,
you won't think about a guy with the same sex.
Yeah.
Of course. So we always have to remind ourselves to get away from that monosyllabic view of sexuality. However, I also knew, this is so sad, that the marriage would be great for the image. It's all part of it. Listen,
I know.
A drug.
I told you. I said in the previous thing
is a nasty
the reason
drug.
Why I got married was that I didn't want to be the old drunken uncle.
Right.
I didn't say drunken uncle because those guys were drunken uncles. I didn't want to be that. And there was a character on. There's a character on Saturday Night Live. He did it for a couple of years running. It was a drunken uncle, and it was a parody of the guy who. And it's just like we used to call. I guess in the form of a closeted gay man, it would be what do they call that? Bachelor or something. Confirmed bachelor.
A confirmed bachelor.
That was the old style of saying it. And the parody of the drunken uncle. Think of it as drunken uncle. Now, from my thing was I would become a person that I would never feel that anybody would want to be around eventually, because you start hating yourself. Once you start hating yourself, then how could anybody love you if you hate yourself? If you can't do that, or you find someone that's okay with that you don't like yourself, and what kind of person is that good to be with? I'm not saying that's everyone deals with differently with alcohol and stuff like that. There's self-loathing and things like that. And there's other ones that people, when it comes to lifestyle choices, it's the sinner. I'm a sinner. I'm wrong. I'm the wrong stereotype and stuff like that. Just that stereotype that you have to be that way. To cut to the core of the core of the belief is how we are friends. You come up to, are they good people?
Right.
Yes. Are they honorable? Yes. I mean, and everything kind of flows from that part. Are they good people? Are they honorable? And you don't have to ask the next questions. Do they have my best interest? No, they have their best. Well, their best interest align with my best interest.
I have three core criterion for friends, for humans.
Yes.
In general.
Yeah.
Empathy, compassion, and honor.
I think compassion and empathy are.
No.
You don't think that?
No. Let me tell you something. Empathy, placing yourself in the conditions of others. In other words, your feet in the shoes of others.
Yeah.
Feeling how they feel.
Yeah.
Truly absorbing their experience and eliminating yours. That's a calling in and of itself. Eastern philosophies.
I would like to say that, but I never could ever feel, I have compassion and understanding as a history for like the history of lynching in the United States. A well-known politician compared the investigations into his thing as a lynching, knowing that full well there's a very dark history of lynching in the African American community, and it's a very deep wound. And to be able to use that word with not considering that, can I feel? I do empathize, but do I fully feel what the full force of racism is? I would. I don't know what it's like because I haven't been in there.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
To empathize with someone, you can only empathize as far as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
Empathy requires you to strip you away from it. And that's easier said than done. To develop an empathy is to truly develop the sense that you're no longer you, that you are the other person.
Well,
and that you can now sustain the feeling.
That's that we thing, which is I agree with.
Yeah,
I agree with.
See,
that's where compassion and empathy, I think.
Compassion is an understanding. If I am compassionate, so one can be compassionate at the simple recognition that there's a lesser amongst us, someone who's hungry, someone who's hurt. You can have compassion, but are you really putting yourself and feeling their pain, feeling their void, their loneliness?
I view that. Now, this is where the tomato thing, that if you're compassionate, your default would be empathy.
Not necessarily.
That's that thing that we see with software and social media where they're linked together, where I link it together, where other people say,
where empathy comes in, and you can see it in others, and where empathy. If you have empathy, if you have compassion, here's where you'll know an empathetic soul versus one who's not. Their patience. If you have someone who's compassionate and who's exhibiting compassion, and they just run out of patience, they've never put themselves in the place of that person who's hurting to know time is no longer an issue here. An empathetic soul walks away bothered by the feelings that they transmit upon themselves. If you have someone who's just being compassionate, that's great. A lot of people, we're charitable with compassion. But when you don't have that person walk away moved in their soul by it, they may not be empathetic.
I'm losing my patience, Joe, now. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But adrenaline was my drug, just to sum it up. And at the end, I couldn't keep it together because I had to make a higher decision, and that was I couldn't look my dying child in the eye. I couldn't. And think that somehow I'm going to get through this all about me. And maintaining this thing, which no longer had importance, whereas just a few months before, it had always been
the number one thing in your life.
Life depended on it being the number one thing. My existence, because if anyone saw that I was gay, I'd be thrown out of the house, thrown out of the church, thrown out of life, lost the family. Now, as it turns out, a lot of that is hyperbole that I created. And that's what fear does for you. But nonetheless, it was fear. Fear, fear, fear. And we have a society that still to this day, though in a lesser degree, but still promotes, hey, I don't care who you are, just I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. And you don't get to express yourself like anyone else. Just in other words, stay in the closet. I accept you, just be back in the closet. No, that's not how this works. How this works is, if I'm going to free myself and go through life like many people listening have been through life. Many people listening have gone through horrible things. And when you reach a truth, well, that's your truth. No one has the right to shame you, guilt you. It's your truth. If you're trying to live honestly and truthfully, stand by it. Don't let anyone, including if you're thinking about, I identify this way, but I'm scared. Know that there's an awful lot of people, more now than ever, that are willing to put their arms around you and just support you. That people are, in general, the humanist you mentioned earlier, they live by one big, giant, number one rule, and that's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
With the caveat, some people are harmful to themselves.
Do unto others as you wish to be treated. Okay? So if you wish to be treated well, then that's how you should treat others. And that's the humanist outlook. That's the core expression of being a human.
I agree with you 100%. I'm trying not to be different. But some of the things today, the biggest problems are people that are not aware that they don't care about themselves enough. And I'm not talking about this white pride stuff and bullshit like that. I'm talking about not caring enough about themselves to be able to know that they can be a decent person and be accepting and do all these things without doing it. You know what? We're at an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. We're going to have to continue this another time. I don't mean that, but I think I got
to go shopping. I'm out of high heels.
See, that's a stereotype. Of course. I'd like to thank Papa Joe.
Hello.
And it's funny, we did take a thing, but that's the way it is on the Keys Bartender podcast. We started out getting fucked up, and we went into a deep conversation, much like we would at a bar. I'd like to thank Papa Joe. And Joe is drinking his Mexican Coke.
I love my
Coca-Cola.
Mexican Coke, even though I'm now on a cut out the sugar binge, but not for my Coke.
Nope, that's good. That's good. We'll be back. Back next episode. You'll be tonight.
Sure. Why not?
Okay. Talk to you later. Take care.